Good morning everyone. As always, I hope you are all well and happy and keeping painting. This is YouTube number 7, but week 1 of a new technique. This month we will be working on line and wash. So for those who've not used this technique before, it simply means creating a line drawing and washing colour over the top. And I'll talk more about that as we go on and I start doing a little demonstration. Various pens can be used, or other implements also, endless amounts. But I've just chosen a few here which I'll actually just show you first of all how they're going to work. And if in fact you haven't any pens, you'll have to go with a pencil, and we all know that you can make a line with a pencil. So here's a pencil, and the marks I'm making here, that's called hatching. So we use that if we need to do a lot of shading. And coming back the other way creates a darker mark which is called cross hatching. Okay, so that's the pencil. I've then got a series of pens that are water resist and varying sizes. So I've not got too many different ones out. This is a 1, and so therefore that makes fine marks for you. Sometimes you have to go quite slowly with the finer marks, finer pens, because they are so fine that they don't show up so well. Then there's the 5, so that's the 1, that's the pencil, and this is the 5, which you can see straight away is making a stronger mark. And they're all water resist. Pencil also. I've also got what they call a brush pen here, which isn't really a brush but a bit like a felt tip in a way, but it actually does make nice broken marks for you, especially over the texture of the paper. So that's quite nice for filling in, if you have one of those at any time. So that's the brush pen. If you want to use a pen and you haven't got the ink pens, which those are, you could always use a biro. It's going to be a very stiff line, but it actually makes a decent enough mark. And then I have here a water-soluble pen, a Tombow. I know a lot of you've got this pen, and that's very nice if you want to allow some of your work to float into the paint. So it's got a thick end and it's got a finer end, and if you actually hold that fine end on its side, you can get a really fine line appearing, which is really quite nice. Takes a bit of practice with those, but I will just show you how it blends. So it really does lovely things, and actually later on in the month, because we're going to be working on this line and wash for the month, I'll be doing more of that with you. Okay, so that's that. Now, the thing I often get people to start off with in the studio with the line and wash, especially if you haven't used it before, or in fact for those who want to just warm up a bit and get your pens going and see what works, I start off by getting people to paint a mushroom. This is a cruddy little mushroom that's in my fridge. If you haven't got a mushroom, choose something else from the fridge, alright? Perhaps I don't know, an apple, orange from the fruit bowl, banana, anything that's reasonably simple and straightforward to draw with and paint over the top to begin with. So I'm going to use the 5. That's going to show up a little bit better in this situation than a finer one. And when you're drawing, you need to have a look at your subject and decide what you see the whole of. Well, I can see the whole of this top, and I'm holding my pen really, really, really loosely. And I'm not worrying about double lines, that sort of thing. It's always going to create some interest to allow that pen to be a little bit looser in your hand. So that's the stalk. So what I'm trying to create here is an interesting little mushroom. And it is a funny little dumpy thing. The value mushrooms are better. You get all shapes and sizes. So that's the outline of my mushroom. And then I'm going to just put this centre bit in. And I've actually left a little bit more space there than I can actually see, because I want to have space to put gills in, because they're an interesting aspect of a mushroom. Anyone can draw a mushroom, and they're incredibly forgiving, so if the shape doesn't look like the one that you see in front of you, it really doesn't matter a bit, does it? It's still going to look like a mushroom, and it's got a few marks on it, so I'll put those in. This is going to be my darker side, so I might just put a little bit of shadow in. I actually prefer to put darks and lights in with the paint, but I mean that's an optional thing and a matter of choice. And of course you've got to ground it. If you're drawing, there's my mushroom. If you're actually drawing a subject like this, which is an inanimate object, you need to ground it, otherwise it's floating. So with your pen you can actually do some of that. My shadow's this side because that's my dark side, so always work out which is your darker side. And then we need to give it a little bit more interest by giving it some colour. Any colour, it doesn't have to be the colour that you see your mushroom, just practice different mushrooms, different shapes, turn it round, get lots out, draw lots, and have a good old practice with popping the colour on. I've actually got some raw sienna here, and I've put a little bit of my paint in the corner of my dish, and then I've just popped quite a bit of water in so that I can vary it. Don't mix the whole pool because that's not necessary. You may need that for something else. So what I'm going to do now is to wash over. And I'm using a dagger brush here. Any round brush would do. But I also think it's quite nice to leave, because you've depicted your subject, you've created the shapes and everything, you can actually just leave some of it nice and light, which I've done here. I'm going to leave that bit light. And I'm not going to allow it to dry before going in, so if my colours blend, hopefully that'll add even more interest to my subject. And then you can see the pen through, so there's not very much work to do. But what I would say is go beyond your marks sometimes, stay within them, leave white paper, and that way you're going to loosen up your picture, because the thing with line and wash is it can actually look a little bit stiff, a little bit contrived, a little bit heavy. So always think about maybe leaving some nice light in there and going beyond your marks. There. So that's all there is to painting a little mushroom. And it's obviously sitting on something, so because I've grounded it. And that can also be part of the shadow. I've got a lovely shadow going on there because of my lovely bright light. Another thing I want to just talk about before I do anything else, well, I'll do it up here. Hold your pen loosely and higher up towards the end, and that way it's going to help to loosen you up. Don't let's be using that kind of a situation whereby it looks like you're going to write a letter. Keep it loose in your hand. That's going to help you to loosen up, so that you will get wobbly lines which look really good, especially when you're painting and drawing buildings. For instance, and another good thing is to keep your pen down on the paper. So if I'm drawing a box, I haven't lifted it off, I'm actually getting some lovely wobbly lines, and that's way more interesting than if I draw a box like this. So you can imagine if you're drawing old buildings, doors, anything like that, you need to create the character and the interest with your pen, because otherwise it can look very stiff and weak and not particularly interesting to look at, okay? So hold it higher up, which immediately helps you to lose control, and that's a good thing because you'll get some nice wobbly lines going on. So first of all, to get your pens going and to see what they all do, find a mushroom or something similar. Leaves, they'd be fine. Something that's reasonably simple to draw but got some interests and things that you can paint in different colours. Okay, so do that if you're a beginner, or if in fact you just want to get your pens going and to get into it a bit. What I thought might be the next thing that might be good for you to go on to, perhaps, might be an old door or an old window. That's what I usually get people to do next in the studio, because they are very forgiving as well and look very interesting and gives you a lovely chance to use the pen in the way that I just described. But if you don't have a picture of an old door or window, maybe I'll post one on online for you, and then you can maybe draw or paint from that. But what I'm going to demonstrate now, I know there are lots of lovely flowers out there, and you can actually stick with the flowers if you want to. I haven't got that many yet, but I was actually quite inspired by these. So I'm actually going to demonstrate some of those. And maybe I'll take a photograph of those as well, because if you can see them reasonably well online, again, they're a very good thing to begin with. So I'll use the same pen again because it's going to show up nicely. So I need to start, and I'll draw it nice and big, I think, so that you can see the method. So I'm going to get its main body in. If you're actually creating lots of something on the page, or a landscape, or a corner of your garden or whatever, make sure you have a focal point and start with that and then work out. If you've got a bunch of things like I just showed you, don't start at the top and work down, because things won't perhaps be in the place that you would like them to be. So start off with nice big strong focal point, okay? And so I'm going to draw my big fat seed head here. Okay, keeping my pen down, holding it higher up, being quite loose. And when that's coloured, you see, it's going to look way more interesting than if I had just one single line around it. And of course you can do the same thing with your pencil, looking at it quite carefully, nevertheless, and seeing what happens with the stalks. But if you've got lots to do, don't bring the stalks all the way down, because actually with a pen you've only got one chance, haven't you? So you may want to put something else here, so just don't put the stalks down too far yet. Put the stalks in last. Just give yourself an indication of where the stalk comes from. That's if you're doing flowers and plants and anything like this. So that's that one done. I'll draw one more and then I'll just wash over that, and then I'm going to give you other ideas of things that you can actually paint. So that's the star of the show over there. So you can ease up with the pen work and maybe work a little bit lighter with any consecutive ones that you put in or ones that you want to be behind. Same thing with buildings, anything else that you want to draw. Think about the perspective in form, colour, strength, everything. So maybe my stalk for that one might be something like that. And then of course it would need maybe one more up here. I'll do a quick little light one. Lovely drawing practice. And also a very nice way to use the watercolour in a nice light way again. So now's the time to maybe think about putting some stalks in. Don't forget the rule of odd numbers. So my 3 will work. So there's my quick little drawing. I'm going to be... In fact, they do have lots of lovely colours in them. So I may use similar colours that I used in my mushroom. But again, just wash over, lovely little light wash. It isn't heavy at all because you've got the shape of the subject there. And I can see all sorts of lovely colours in here. So I can see some blue, and again I've got 2 jars of water, one for mixing the paint, keeping it nice and clean, and another one for washing brush. And when you're using a lot of water, I don't think kitchen roll is enough. I think you need to use something like a towel. And when I'm working wet on wet or using something like this that does have a lot of water involved, I think you need something a little bit heavier that's going to take the water in a bit more, because otherwise you'll just make your brush wetter by touching the towel. So lovely little washes. You can even start letting some of that go now and creating some background. It's up to you what you do with this subject, and you can do all sorts of things with the background because, as I say, you've already shown your nice drawing. It's there, and nothing you do is going to take that away. So try not to draw everything with the pencil first. I'm going to give you lots of notes this week because we're starting a new technique, so you will get lots of notes through. Lots of water. Don't be afraid to use the water. This is a lovely idea, a lovely subject and lovely technique to get you loosened up a little bit, because with the pen it can end up being very tight. So why not allow lots of lovely blends to happen? I didn't know I was going to do it this way at all till I got going, and so it's quite nice just to let it happen. And when that's dry, you can always go back, pop a little bit more strength into any of these if you wish, but I actually quite like it like that. So there's my little quickie. Lovely thing to practice with, to get going with. There's some I did earlier, so let me show you. So that's one that I did earlier, but using lots of different colours. Why not? I think with this subject, for all sorts of things, you can use whatever you're painting. You can put different colours in. Use different pens. That's the Tombow pen that blended while I was actually painting, which created lovely loose work. So try all these things and just enjoy using the pen. The main thing is not to get stiff with it. So that was a more formal one, but as you see, I used one of last week's techniques, the blowing. So don't forget the techniques that we've used in the month, last month, or even the whole year, and create your pictures using these other techniques also. Another thing I've done is I went into the garden to see what I could find, and I was inspired by this, which isn't necessarily the sort of thing that everybody would want to paint at this time of the year, but I just absolutely couldn't resist it. So, as I say, anything can be used, and something like that creates lovely shapes. So I painted it I actually painted it twice. I painted the back of it and I also painted the front of it. So that's the back of it, and it did have some lovely colours in it. So that's a lovely subject, and it showed a lovely shadow as well. So that's a really nice subject that you can use. Something that's dried, because not everybody's going to have a lot of things in the garden at the moment. Hang on. Got so much stuff around here. And that was the darker side, which meant that I could put more depth of colour in, okay? So that's something. If you've got a nice subject, a subject that you really like, you can use it more than once by turning it around, painting it different colours, whatever. Now here's an old door that I did, and works really well with the line and wash. So what I'm going to do is post you a picture of one, so that if you want to paint an old door, you can have a look and take it from there. Flowers can be used, and flowers that actually work really well with line and wash are the more intricate flowers. Things that might be quite difficult to paint using just watercolour because of so many different petals, one sitting on top of another, etc., etc. Beautiful. So using the fine pen, but maybe in a gentler way, would work really well for flowers like this, if you want to continue to paint flowers. And of course they are now all starting to come, so quite nice still to be able to paint them, which I did. I tried the white one. What's it called, Kate? Very pretty little thing. So that's a matter of just drawing it, painting it, popping the background on, and I put some salt on as well. So that showed up quite well. With this one, I had two clematis. They've gone now. But I did the drawing with the fine pen, and I just then popped the background around, allowing some of the background then to creep into the flower for a bit of colour, a bit of shadow, and a bit more interest. Okay, so that again is another quick, nice way of using the pen, and a quick way to make a card for someone. While you're in the fridge, you might find a pineapple. Pineapples work incredibly well for this type of subject. Don't forget to ground it. And it's got lots of colour in it. And you can actually be stronger. You could use the water soluble pen, you could put lots of colour in, you can create blots, which I like the little blots. You can do spattering over the top, which gives it movement. So a pineapple is an especially nice thing to do. But for those, I think, who have used this technique lots and lots, you might want to go. I know every technique isn't going to be something that you will all want to do. So within reason, do what you want to do. And I know some of you want to do buildings. I think I'm going to run out of time soon, so I'm just saying, for those who want to do landscapes and buildings, feel free to do so, because I think for most of this month, I'm going to allow you to do what you want to do and choose what you want to paint. So I think I'm going to have to stop because I've only got a few minutes left now. I've got a timer there today. But as I say, try to use other techniques that you've learnt this year. Send to me and I will help you if I can. So I love getting your pictures. I've had some lovely things again this week. The blossom was really, really nice to paint, and you did a good job with it, with that technique. But please, if you reply to me, don't forget to reply separately so that I don't get everything back again, because I am going to send quite a lot this time. If you need any extra materials, if you're running out of stuff, I can send you a parcel, because my post lady will take parcels for me. So if you're desperate for any art materials, let me know. Those pens that I showed you can be bought in a little set like that of 5 different sizes, and have a brush pen in there as well. And I hope you're all still painting. If you're not and you don't want to receive my email, because it is a big thing to receive every Monday if you really don't want it, let me know and I'll take you off the group. But I hope you're all still painting, and I hope you're all still enjoying it. And so stay well, look after yourselves, and enjoy the weather. Get outside, because painting outside and drawing outside is going to be way better than using a photograph. If you do use a photograph, try to use one of your photographs, because that means you've experienced that particular subject, which works better. If not, look on pixabay.com and you can download drawings from there, not somebody else's painting, but photographs, and it's all copyright free. So